I am currently reading The Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, and after a few requests from you people asking me to do a review, I thought rather than do a review, I would just document my entire reading journey from the start of the book to the end of the book. And this is coming from someone that's never watched the TV series, so you're going to see all the confusion, all the feelings, and I just thought it'd be cool to document with you. And I'll start by saying that I don't understand everything that's going on, but the stuff I do understand, I bloody love. So, as you kind of pick up this book, if you've never read this series before and you don't want spoilers, I'm going to say to you now, just check out. This is not a video you're going to want to watch, because I am going to talk about stuff that's happened in the book, thoughts and feelings on the book, and we're going to go through kind of some of the characters and maps and things in the book. So, chapter 1, or I say chapter 1, the prologue in this book starts off in what I now understand to be north of the north. So there is the wall where the Night's Watch kind of guard the wall, and they separate what used to be this ancient Nightwalker race that they talk about, and the normal world, we'll say, which is separated between the north and the south. Chapter 1 is north of the wall, where you've got this Night's Watch, almost these kind of like soldiers who are just walking and exploring what's at the other side of this wall. There's a lot of mystery in this chapter. You kind of don't really know who's who. And these soldiers come across these dead bodies and they're like, shit, what's happening? There's some dead bodies here. So they go to explore. And whilst exploring, these other beings, these like almost beastly creatures turn up. I'm guessing these are what are called these like night walkers. Shit kicks off. Some people get sent to Jesus, and one dude is just like, bye Felicia, I'm gone. So he does a runner, he escapes and manages to get to the other side of the wall, and then that chapter ends. It just kind of comes to an abrupt end, and you're left kind of just wondering, or at least I was left wondering, like, what is this? You know, what's this world? What are these things? What are these creatures? Who are these soldiers? And then, yeah, I went into chapter 1 just kind of thinking like, what the fuck? Then we jump into chapter 1 and the next, I don't know, so many chapters. And you're then introduced to the characters of this world. And please bear in mind, this is a reading vlog. This is just my reaction to this series. This isn't me trying to tell you what is what, because I haven't really got the foggiest of ideas. I'm just kind of winging it. So from what I believe, and this is from me kind of reading the map, because at the start of the book, you've got a few maps. You've actually got a few pages of maps. So I spent a good amount of time looking at these maps and stuff and cross-referencing. So when I come across certain characters, I'm kind of like trying to figure out where they're all coming from, where they live. And at the back of the map, I always say this with any fantasy books that are like proper epic fantasy. Sometimes if you go to the back of books, the authors will give you like summaries. And in the back of this book, George R.R. Martin has given you summaries of each house. So you've got House Martell. I actually don't know who House Martell are, so I don't think I've met these yet. House Greyjoy. I recognise the name Greyjoy, but I'm not sure. House Arryn, no idea. Lannister, I've met the Lannisters. And Stark, met the Starks. Baratheon, met Baratheons. So this is what I'm feeling so far. Is this seems like it's a world like full of treachery. You've obviously got the history of the world. There's mentions of dragons because you've got the what's her name? There's a blonde girl, a young blonde girl who is currently like stocking an egg, a dragon egg. I think it's like Targaryens, something like that. Anyway, so you've got this family of like Targaryens. It starts off with this brother who it appears that their family maybe used to hold the throne and were maybe the kings and queens of this land. And you've got this young brother whose dad has, I think he's been like sent to Jesus. So the throne's gone. The throne is no longer with these Targaryens, but he's desperate to get the throne back. So he's like pimping out his sister to these Dothraki warriors. So he's almost basically saying to these people, right, you can have my sister, and I need tens of thousands of your soldiers to be able to use these soldiers to go back and get back the throne that is rightfully mine. I've not really been introduced much to this family of people. I don't know much about the history, but I just know that this dude is feral. He's desperate and hungry for what he believes is rightfully his throne back, and he's willing to just give up anything to get back this kingdom. Now, there's mentions of like 7 kingdoms and stuff like that, so I don't know if he would be the like strong king that powers over everything, or whether it's just a certain area. So I'm still learning a lot about that, but I do just know that he's feral. She, the sister, I think her name's like Daenerys. Feel really sorry for her, but there's mentions of her being able to, I don't know whether like control dragons, or this Targaryen family seem to have close links to dragons. And you know me, anything to do with dragons, and I'm like, yes. So this family's interested. He's a waste man, but she seems really cool. She's married in now to this Dothraki society, and they are dark. They seem to be almost like very animalistic and warrior-like. They don't seem to have any sort of respect at all towards women. There are some scenes in here I think some people would struggle with and find quite disturbing, especially like the sex scenes and things like that. It's very just animalistic. There's an age gap as well, which I think some people will find uncomfortable. I believe that this girl Daenerys is like 13 or 14 at the start of this book, and Khal Drogo, this guy that she's married, is described to be like a man. So yeah, some people are going to be weirded out by that. Stuff in books like this, if I'm totally honest with you, I can see past that, because stuff like that happened back in them days. So although it's culturally weird now, it wasn't back then. So I can kind of see past that. What I don't like is when they try and make scenes like that kind of sexy, when it's written into fiction to be sexy and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily say it's written in that way so far, at least. There is one scene where there's like a little bit of foreplay and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm not sure I need foreplay with a 14-year-old and a fully grown man, so I can do without it. But I also understand that it's there to kind of represent a time and a place when stuff like that was just culturally normal. So that's them. And then I have been introduced to the Stark family, and there's bare Starks. There's like Starks everywhere. You've got, I think the main dude's called Ned Stark. He's like Papa Bear. And then you've got Catelyn Stark, who is the mum, and they've got their own little family with a kid called Bryn, a girl called Arya, another girl who's a spoiled little brat. I can't remember what her name is. Then there's one more whose name I forgot. And then there's Jon Snow, who is the bastard child of Ned Stark from a previous relationship. So feelings on these so far. Favourites. Arya is like a young girl who just doesn't want to be part of the life that these want for her. They obviously want her to grow up to be like a little princess and stuff, and she's like, nah, I want to go out and get mucky and climb and adventure and stuff. Then you've got her sister, who is the polar opposite. I really forget her sister's name. She's not forgettable, because she actually really makes me angry, but I think because I dislike her so much, I just forget what her name is. But Arya's got a sister who's the polar opposite of her. She absolutely wants to grow up in this life of royalty, and she is like kind of spoiled, and she's got love goggles on for this dude that is part of the Lannister family. We'll get to him soon. Joffrey, I think his name is. Joffrey's also a bit of a waste man. You've got Jon Snow, who is the bastard child of Ned, and I really, really like him. He's been sent to work on the wall right at the north of the place, the place that I told you about that separates the north where the humans live and the unknown. I think there's actually a name for it on the map as well. There is actually a part of the map that says the land beyond the wall. So that's called the Haunted Forest. Yeah, we'll go with that. There's a place called the Haunted Forest. So I'm guessing that's where that dude got sent to Jesus at the start. We're all night walkers, white walkers. They're mental people there. So Jon Snow's been sent to guard the wall, and almost it feels like he's just been kind of forgot about. And it's an interesting concept with this story, because now that he's up there, he's coming across all these people who are, I suppose, lower than him in societal standing, and it's a bit of a culture shock because none of them are respecting his position within this kind of like noble family, and he's getting a reality check. They're basically saying, look, I don't care who your dad is, you're working here, and that's that. So it's nice because he's getting humbled, and already throughout his story he's starting to find little friendships and stuff with people who he probably wouldn't normally associate with. So I really like him. I think he seems quite loyal, similar to his dad. Ned Stark is a very loyal man, where he's just got so many principles and things like that, and he's just, that's the best way I can describe him, is noble. His wife, even though I really dislike her, she's just family first, but by family first, it's blood family first. If you are her blood, she'll do anything for you, but she's feral when it comes to Jon Snow because he is the bastard child, and I believe Jon Snow was the product of Ned maybe cheating on Caitlyn when he was away at war and stuff like that, so she's obviously got resentment towards him. But the Starks seem good. I really, really like the Starks so far. There's like a bit of scheming between them and the Lannisters, who are the other family that I've been introduced to. So the Lannisters, it seems, are a bit incestuous, if that's the right word. So right at the start of the book, you are introduced to these Lannisters. Jaime Lannister, who is this kind of like knightly figure within the Lannister family, and then I can't remember the woman's name, but we'll call her Queen Lannister. She's not Queen Lannister, but she is the queen who has married the, what's his name? Somewhat Baratheon, I think his name is the king. He's the now king, because there's been like, it's all kicked off, and there was a war, and the old king got sent to Jesus, and then Robert Baratheon, that's his name, he took on the throne. So Robert Baratheon is married to this Lannister woman. So she's the queen. They've got kids together. One of the kids is called is the waste man that I told you that the other girl fancies. This is what I mean about this story. So this is one of the issues, is there are so many characters getting thrown at you all at once that I feel like if you try and just remember everything and make it all make sense, it's just going to get confusing as hell. So expect it to be confusing. But what I will say is, so far, I like the Starks. The Lannisters are incestuous because this Jaime Lannister and the Queen are having an affair, because Bran, I think that's what his name was, he is one of the Starks who likes climbing. We're climbing up this building, looked through a window and saw these two, brother and sister, like, I think he were finger blasting her, if I'm honest. He were doing dirty stuff with his fingers to her. And then they turned round and Bran were at window, and then they ended up yeeting him out of window. So he fell to the floor, and then he got knocked out. And then when he woke back up, he didn't have a clue what were happening. And then the Lannisters are all trying to cover it up. And then somebody from somewhere sent this assassin to come and kill Bran while he were asleep. And then they found the person, and Caitlyn, who's Bran's mum, found him and were like, yeah! And then this big wolf come in and bit this dude on the neck, and then they found a knife on the assassin, and the knife was linked back to Tyrion Lannister, who is the brother of these two incestuous weirdos, and he's got dwarfism. We'll get back to him in a minute, because he's insane. But it's his sword, so now they all think that Tyrion Lannister was the one that set up what's happened to Bran. And I hope that makes sense to you. It doesn't make sense to me, but in my head it makes sense. So Tyrion Lannister, while we're on it, is a legend. He is the brother of them two weirdos, the incestuous people that like doing dirty stuff with the fingers, and their brother and sister. Ugh. He is one of the Lannisters, but he's got dwarfism. So all the other people within the family are very noble. The men are like warriors, and the women are just royal and just what you would expect, I guess, from this society. Whereas very early on, Tyrion talks a lot about his disability and the fact that every man within his family are strong, they're soldiers, and he wasn't able to be physically strong, so he had to train himself to be mentally strong. So he's got an obsession with books, he loves to learn, he's very clever, he's very conversational, like he's just so clever conversationally, and will win. All right, motorbike, sorry if you can hear that, just some feral motorbike had just gone past me. Yeah, he will always win a battle using his voice rather than using his hands. And I really like him so far, although the thing has come in with the knife and stuff, but even though everyone else is confused and they're like, oh, this is his knife, I already know that Bran saw them two finger blasting, so I think they've set up their brother because he is very much an outcast. So yeah, loving it so far. That's about where I'm up to. There's not really much more I can tell you about how I'm feeling, other than the fact that I can already see the writing is spectacular. It's up there with some of the best writing I have come across in modern fantasy, actually in any literature. George R.R. Martin can just write. He is like a magician with a pen. The character work, again, I am always character first when it comes to books. And the way that this man writes characters, each character is unique. You're either going to love them or hate them. And that's the way that I feel. I either love them or hate them. And even if I hate them, I want to understand more about them and understand why they are the way they are. And the plot's good. There's so much mystery at the minute. It's kind of like who is who, what is what, like what is happening, who's going to be king, who's going to be queen, are dragons real? There's just so much mystery, and I'm here for it. So I'm currently about, 200 and something pages in. So I've done a good chunk, and hopefully that kind of covers my thoughts and feelings and where I'm up to so far. For the rest of the book, I'm just going to keep updating you. And then hopefully by the end of it, we can kind of count this as a bit of a review/reading vlog. Who knows? I'll check in with you soon. I bloody love it. I am currently 366 pages in, and something just clicked. Like the name of the title, A Game of Thrones. This book so far literally is a game for the throne, which might seem obvious to some of you, but whenever I pick up books, I don't necessarily look at the title and think, I wonder what that means. It is like a soap. There's just so much drama and so much mystery, and I am a proper nosy bastard. Like, I'm the kind of person that I don't love drama and I don't like creating drama. And if I see videos of like public figures or other content creators or influencers on Bookstagram or BookTube, like I look at that video and my first thought is, oh, that's not very nice. Like that could affect their mental health. And then I think, but you've already done video, so let me just find out the goss. Like, let me be a nosy bastard. And I just want to know everything yesterday. And that is how this book is making me feel. So since I last checked in with you, things are coming together a little bit more. So I'm starting to understand a bit more that, like, things I missed out on. So towards the start of the book, the old king's hand was poisoned or killed or something, but his death was very, like, sudden. He was quite fit and well, and then all of a sudden he's dead. It turns out that I believe the Lannisters were the ones that actually killed him, but I don't understand fully why they would kill the king's hand yet. There's also been like a chapter with Arya Stark, who went up to her dad, who's now the new king's hand, and said that she'd overheard a conversation between two people basically planning his death. But I can't imagine that it'd be the Lannisters, because I don't understand why the Lannisters would kill the old king's hand to put Robert in place to kill him. Like, it seems more logical that they'd kill him before he was the king's hand, because he's in less of a position of power. So I don't think it's necessarily the Lannisters that are trying to kill him. But then, like, on another side of the story, you've got Cersei, who is the wife to the king, who appears to be trying to, like, yeet the king. I think she's trying to kill the king and get her son in power, who is, what's his name again? He's got such a forgettable name. Lannister. Joffrey. What a stupid name. Joffrey Lannister is like her way to try and get in power. And to start off with, I thought, why on earth would you try and kill the king when you are the queen? Like, you're in power. But she's basically got no power at all as the current queen, because Robert Baratheon, if that's what his name is, just does everything, and she doesn't really get a say in the matter. Whereas if King Baratheon was dead, then she would be able to, like, manipulate her son to do things that she wants him to do, because obviously she's his mum and he's young and he's vulnerable. So you got that story going on as well. That's really interesting. But then it turns out that the blonde girl who carries dragon eggs around, she's with child, and if she has a baby boy, then that boy might have some sort of, like, claim to the throne, because the Targaryens used to have the throne, but now they don't. There's just so much mystery. There are so many things at the minute that are just unclear to me, things that I'm trying to figure out, and I'm trying to, like, think to myself, well, if everyone else finds out that Daenerys is pregnant, will they all try and kill her? Because the king has just found out that Daenerys is pregnant, and he's like, well, we're just going to have to kill her. And then Ned Stark, being nobleman that he is, was like, Robert, we're not killing a child. Like, that's mental. You are literally batshit crazy. We're not killing kids. And he's like, well, we've got to, and you've got to, because you're my hand, and if you don't do it, I'll put your head on a stick. And then he's like, do it then. But then he runs off and he's like trying to escape him and stuff. So there's just so much mystery. I don't know who to trust. I don't know who I love. I said the last time I checked into you that I hated Caitlyn because she's horrible and she won't accept Jon Snow as her son. And now I'm kind of like, well, actually, do I hate her? Because she's a hard worker. She could just sit at home on a bum and just be like, none of this affects me. But she's not. She's out like everywhere. She's literally on a mission everywhere, trying to find out what's happening, trying to find out who's trying to kill who, just to protect her own. But I just want her to want Jon Snow as well, because I like Jon. So she's growing on me. It's almost like every single chapter, my opinions on people changes. Literally every chapter. And one thing I do love so far is there isn't a chapter yet where I start the chapter and I look at the character name where I think, oh, bloody hell, I've got to read 20 pages of that character. Like Eddard's chapters are brilliant. Caitlyn's chapters are brilliant. Even Sansa, even though she's a waste of space and I really hate her, the fact that I dislike her so much says that, like, she's written well. I think she's intentionally selfish and stuff, but she's one character I think so far where I can't understand why she is the way that she is, because it doesn't appear to me like she comes from that kind of family. Caitlyn looks after her own, and she definitely is like family first, but I don't understand why Sansa's so like uppity and just she's got to stick up her arse. But even her chapters I don't hate. Yeah, so Eddard's chapters, Arya's chapters, Tyrion's chapters, they're all just marvellous, and I'm bloody loving it so far. Really, really good. One of the hard things is I've got so many questions when other people come up. Like, we've just been to this village where Caitlyn was raised, and we're introduced to Caitlyn's family, and she appears to come from quite like an affluent family and stuff. And I want to go on Google to find out more about like who her family is and stuff like that. But I know that because this is like an old series and it's really famous, that the second I type in like who is Caitlyn's family, it'll be like Caitlyn's family are dead and Tyrion Lannister did it, because spoilers are real, aren't they? So far, I've just avoided Google completely. So I think a lot of things that could be quite easily cleared up by Google just aren't clear for me at the minute. But it's also adding to the experience, because some of this stuff that I'm saying to you, you lot that have read it, you're all like, you idiot, you've got this so wrong. And I think that's just making everything more exciting. So yeah, halfway through, just under halfway through, and I'm bloody loving it. So I'm now learning that every single character, as I said earlier on, that I think I know is just wrong. This Robert Baratheon fella, who is the king, early doors, I thought he seemed alright, because he seemed relatively like loyal to Ned Stark. But then since Ned Stark has decided that he doesn't want to be the king's hand anymore, which is like the shortest ever job posting ever. I think he must have held that position for like a day, and now he's unemployed again. But since that, and then obviously he threatened to put his head on the spike and stuff, I'm like, maybe he's not as good as I initially thought he was. Maybe he's batshit crazy. So I'm just reading a chapter now that goes into the history of the king, and it turns out the king's got more kids than Octomum. He like can't keep his dick in his pants, so every village that he goes to, he's sleeping with loads of prostitutes, and that seems to be a theme through the story, because there's a bit on the page before I've just read that talks about bastard children. It says here, if the gods frowned so on bastards, he thought dully, why did they fill men with such lusts? And then talks about it as if men can't just keep the dicks in the pants, and this guy definitely can't. He's sleeping with every prostitute in every village that he comes across. But then there's another bit that talks about the potential that he had twins in another village that he went to, and it said, I also heard whispers that Robert got a pair of twins on a serving wench at Casterly Rock 3 years ago when he went west for Lord Tywin's tourney. Cersei had the babes killed and sold the mother to a passing slaver. So Cersei, batshit crazy. I said before that I knew she was a bit mental, but he's going out just making kids everywhere, and she's just killing kids and selling wives off for slavery. So them two mental.
I am tired, so I'm sorry if I look like this, but I have never been so smug and humbled in the same chapter. It might even be in the same page. So I've just finished page 372, which is a chapter where Ned Stark is met by the Lannisters in some sort of like village, and they all come in, and the Lannisters are there in the numbers, and Ned's there with a few of his mates, and it seems like it's going to kick off. But then Jaime Lannister threatens him, and he's like, I'm basically going to kill you. And he's like, well, you're not though, are you? Because if you kill me, my wife's going to kill your brother. So, ha. And then at that time, I had butterflies in my tummy, and I was like, go on, Ned. 1-0 to Ned. And then he's like, all right, no worries, fair enough. Kill his men to all his mates. So Lannister told his 20 soldiers to kill Ned's mates, Jory being one of them, and they did. They got into a scrap, and Ned got into a proper battle trying to defend all his mates, and Lannister told his mates to kill Ned's mates, and Jory died, and he was just there on his own. And it's just such a turn of events because he's gone from being King's Hand to running away from King because he's left him and he's got no one. And I can just picture him there in mud on his own, getting piss wet through with rain, mud at his feet, his dead friend in his arms, and I feel sorry for him. So it was a high chapter for a second, and then a very low chapter. So yeah, rest in peace, Jory Cassell.
It is the day after, and I'm just loving this book so much. I think this video is probably going to last a lot longer than I initially expected, because I went into it thinking that I might have a few updates throughout, but I haven't. I've got a bloody lot of updates, and it feels like every single chapter that I read, I've got something new that I need to say, or just a new thought that I want to talk to you about. So I've been writing them down because I've read a few chapters without talking to you, and my memory's terrible. So if I don't write it down, I'll forget what I wanted to talk to you about. So I've wrote a few things down that I need to talk to you about, because after we last spoke, I was reintroduced to Daenerys, and I'm loving her chapters. And I know I spoke to you yesterday and said that every chapter that I come across, there's not a chapter that I don't like. And then the next chapter after I did that video was a Bran chapter. And I was like, I'm not sure actually. I don't know if Bran's chapters are the ones that bore me. But then Bran's chapter was remarkable. Fantastic. It was a chapter where him and his brother Rob were going out on horseback for the first time. And he's now obviously paralysed below the waist and stuff happened when they were out on the walk, and they came across these people in the wilderness who were deserters from the wall, and shit kicked off. There were a big fight. Rob came to save his life. Wolves come in, started biting people's throats out and stuff, and I was just like, I love Bran's chapters as well. So truly, there isn't a chapter so far that I've read where I've been like, well, that was boring. So that's nice. Then after that, we'll go back to Daenerys, and the relationship between her and her brother is just so complicated. Hate her brother. I think it's clear as anything. If there's one character even in this entire book that I think universally everyone will agree is just feral, it's Daenerys' brother Viserys, I think his name is. He's just horrible. He uses his sister. He abuses his sister. He SAs his sister. He's just an absolute dirty minger. But I really like where that story's going, because it starts off and she's just a people pleaser. She wants her brother to be happy. He just sees himself as this almost like dragon king, almost like a godly figure. And he sees himself as destined to be some sort of dragon king. And he's starting to get a reality check, because he keeps coming up to his sister and kicking off and making threats and stuff like that. And it's getting to the point now where she's just like, bitch, this is enough. Know your place. I am now married to a dude with a long ponytail who's got big muscles and a big sword. I'll get him to bite your face off if you carry on. And he already had a threat. There was a threat that had happened in previous chapters where one of this Khal Drogo's men had put almost like a whip around I forgot his name, Viserys. Is that his name? I think his name's Viserys. Put a whip around his neck and were like, you best not talk to her now. She is almost a queen. Like, you better respect her. And he don't seem to be getting a picture. He don't seem to understand now that his sister really kind of holds all the cards and he needs to keep her happy. So that had happened in past. And as a way to try and apologise to her brother, she spoke to one of the housekeepers almost, one of the girls that helps her look after herself. She says, can you go and fetch my brother and bring him to me? And I'm going to put him a spread on. She puts him this nice meal on, and he comes along and he's like, you dare tell someone to come and fetch me? Like, you're my slave. And she's like, I'm really not. I'm just trying to keep you happy. She's my brother, and like I feel like I owe that to you. And then he gets hands on her, grabs her hands, and then she's like, you mad? So she gets this belt and whacks him with this belt across his face, cuts him, and then she's like, you better remember your place, bitch! And then he goes off and he's like, I'm not going to forget this. But anyway, I really like it because she's almost now gaining that inner strength where she's like, you know what, I don't have to put away his crap anymore. I'm not going to accept it. He's not going to put hands on me. I'm no one's punching bag. And I'm going to stick up for myself. So far, she's not even gone to her man. And that's what I like, is that she's not just married this dude and she's not using him as a way to protect her. She's protecting herself because just by escaping her brother, she already feels like kind of the leashes have been let off and she's stronger. And that is definitely showing in her character. So I really like her and I really hate him. But part of me, although I am proud of her for just being a boss bitch, I also want her to snitch on her brother to this Khal Drogo because he seems mental, and I wouldn't mind if Khal Drogo fed Viserys his own testicles because I feel like he needs it. I'm starting to think as well that these Dothraki people are maybe a little bit misunderstood. They are clearly batshit crazy. They love a war, they love a scrap. They live walking around half naked and stabbing folk. But I think they also have their own kind of morals and stuff. And they're less animal-like than I feel like I'm led to believe. I think one of the issues at the minute is there's obviously a language barrier between Daenerys and between Khal Drogo and some of his minions, because he's got a few like ride or die mandem who will stay with him for life. There's talk about his henchmen being almost like blood brothers, where when he dies, they die. So they will literally fight to the death, which is obviously quite tribe-like. But there are certain things in the way that the Dothraki deal with Daenerys and any disrespect towards her and stuff. So on one hand, they do seem to respect her quite a lot. I don't know whether that's because she is the wife now of like what would be their king, or if they do just have some sort of moral compass, because they were definitely described as having almost no moral compass, and the only thing that they were good at was just warring, killing, and riding horses. They appear to be really good at riding horses and firing bows as well. But I'm intrigued to see where their story goes, because I do feel like once this language barrier is broken, there's going to be so much more to learn about these. And these are I think the group of people at the minute that are intriguing me the most. Like, I really want to know more and more and more about them. Don't get me wrong though, they are still pretty shitty people. Like, they still have slaves. Slaves have pretty much built their entire community because they've just gone to this place where I think Daenerys is now going to live, like the place where they live. And there's mention of the fact that slaves basically run the place. They maintain it. Slaves built it. So yeah, they're obviously feral, but I think one thing I'm learning so far in this whole world is that there isn't a good and bad. Everyone does seem to be relatively morally wrong. Some people are just on the more kind scale of morally wrong, if that makes any sense at all. Like, there isn't really a good person, and the only person really that I could honestly say so far in this whole book that I can look at and be like, you just give me good energy, is probably Ned Stark. And even he has done some very questionable shit already in this story. I meant to update you sooner, but I got a bit distracted because this book is just phenomenal. Honestly, I went into this thinking like, oh, I think I'm going to enjoy this. It's been a while since I've truly like been immersed into a book, and I think one of the reasons
is because at the minute, I said to you on one of my other videos that I'm trying to be intentional in my reading. I'm trying to slow down, really like soak it in and just be in the moment and enjoy what's in my hands. And this is the first book that I can honestly say in months where I've been this intentional, where like at the end of each chapter I'll take some time to, maybe even if it's just 5 minutes, I'll take 5 minutes to think about what's happened, think about how it's made me feel, think about questions that I've got, and it's just making the reading experience so much more fun. But it's also meant that I'm struggling to come away from the book as well. But for me, that's such a positive experience. So there's been a few chapters since we last spoke. There was a wicked chapter, one that I really, really enjoyed with Tyrion. So Tyrion is now being held as prisoner by Catelyn, but Catelyn dropped Tyrion off almost to hide him from everyone else, from the Lannisters who were trying to find him, with her sister in this village. So her sister appears to be part of this society that's a very hidden society. They kind of keep away from the world, and she was married to the old King's Hand, who has been poisoned and killed. So Tyrion's now with these people, and he got a bit mouthy, and they decided that they were going to hold him captive. But they put him in this cage, and this is one of the most eerie things I've read. And this to you might sound like nothing, but they put him in a cage, and this cage is dangling above a 600-foot drop, but the cage has got an opening in it. So if he falls to sleep and rolls over in his sleep, he's going to drop 600 foot to his death. I am terrified of heights. That's my biggest fear, heights. So when I read that, I was just like, you are mental. You're all absolutely crazy. And it made me feel so sorry for Tyrion. Now, I don't know if that's because I genuinely feel sorry for Tyrion or because I'm just that petrified of heights. The thought of being in a cage dangling above a 600-foot drop, just, no. Like, I can't even stand in a high-rise building and put my head against a window because in my head, some sort of Harry Potter scene is going to happen where in the Philosopher's Stone, when Dudley is leaning against the glass and Harry makes the glass disappear and he falls into the pit of snakes, that's what will happen to me every single time I'm in a high-rise building. When I lean against glass, the glass will disappear and I'll die. And yeah, so that's the vibe that chapter was giving me. But aside from my own fears, it was just a really good chapter because it, again, got you inside Tyrion's head and you start to understand that he is definitely like a master manipulator. Still really like him. Don't know that I trust him yet, but I think of all the Lannisters, he's the one so far where I'm like, I want him to switch sides and I want him to be a good guy. But I don't know that there is a person yet that I've come across other than Ned Stark who I truly believe is like trustable. I don't even know if trustable's word, but you get what I'm saying. Don't know if I trust him, but I think I like him. So that was a really good chapter. And then after that chapter, we went straight to, who did we go to? I think it was Eddard. I think it was Ned. Yeah, we went back to meet our Ned. And Ned is recovering from this war that he'd had, and he's been rehired by the king again. Them two are so hot and cold. He was employed, unemployed, and re-employed within the space of 100 pages. Like, I don't know whether I'm coming or going with them two. And I don't know, again, when it comes to confusion with characters, for me, this whole series so far has just been one big, like, game of guess who, but it's guess who you can trust. Because I don't know who I can trust. I don't know who I should like. I feel like this this book is making me question my own moral compass because I have liked and disliked Robert Baratheon so much. And in this most recent chapter, I think I like him again. But he also does questionable things. You know, no matter how much people tell him that he needs to just not disown Ned, because obviously he don't live with him, but he needs to basically cut ties with Ned and stop being so loyal to him. He were told in this chapter, look, what Ned's done is unacceptable. Basically, you just need to kill him. His wife told him that, and he was like, shut your mouth, bitch. And I was like, whoa, don't talk to your wife like that. She's your wife. But then I've realised as well that wives aren't love interests in this book. At least it seems so far. I've not met a husband and wife yet where I'm like, okay, they're together because it's just love. It seems to be that marriage is just for political gain or any sort of gain, really, other than just someone that you can kiss and watch Netflix with. That's not what marriage is about. So Robert Baratheon has decided, you know what, Ned, I'm going to forgive what you did. I understand why you did it, but it does make me unhappy. But basically, you are going to be the king's hand, and you don't really have a say in the matter. So he's like, fine, I'll do it. So their little bromance so far, I suppose, is keeping Ned safe. I don't know what's going to happen with the Starks and the Lannisters, because Ned's obviously fuming because his mate got killed by the King Killer, who is Jaime Lannister. I'm getting good with these names now, but I am cross-referencing a lot to like the back of the book and stuff just to remind myself who people are. I will say, if you've not read this series yet, well, really, you don't need to read it because I'm telling you everything that's happened. But if you do read it, just things will start to become clear, because I didn't have a foggiest idea what were happening at the start of the book. And as I've got further, I mean, what am I now? I am 429 pages in, and things are starting to become more clear. But I will also say that there's just bare characters. There's so many characters coming at me, and I'm not trying to figure out who they are, because I bet I've been introduced to 100 characters so far, but I don't think they necessarily all matter. Some of them play such a small side character part that I'm like, if it matters, it'll make sense in a book or two. But it's marvellous. Honestly, truly marvellous. I can't sing its praises enough to explain to you how much I'm bloody enjoying this book. So I'm going to carry on reading again now, and we'll check in whenever I want. Okay, so another character who I've got wrong again, and that is Robert Baratheon, because it turns out that he has children with young people who are sex workers in random villages all over the land, and doesn't care for the women or children. So, yeah, he's mugged me off again. I'm going to stop guessing now who's good and who's bad, because I don't think there is a good and bad character. I think they're all a bit good and bad. So I'm done with that. The only people that I will say that I think aren't going to do me wrong, Ned Stark and Jon Snow. I've just read another chapter with Jon where he's at, I actually thought he was at the wall already, but he's not. He's at some sort of training facility preparing to go to the wall and be part of this like Night's Watch. And after reading that chapter, I've got some questions. So my first question is, like, what is at the other side of the wall? Because there were just mention of giants and beasts of sort, and it seems to me that if there's giants and beasts at the other side of this wall, then that should be taken more seriously. And it just seems that that's kind of brushed under the carpet while everyone's worrying about who's going to be king next. So I'm wondering if that's going to be something further down the line. I'm also wondering who Jon's mum is, because recently Ned had a dream, and at the end of the dream he mentioned a woman's name, and I think that woman, from what I remember, is Jon's mum. So I'm intrigued to learn about who Jon's mum was, because Ned never talks about her. She's like this dirty secret, and Jon's asking loads of questions. He obviously like wonders where he's from, because the only family that he's got left all just don't accept him. And I just bloody love Jon. He's just such a lovely bloke. I've just read the chapter now where he's been told, right, 8 of you are going to go to the wall. We think you're ready, and Jon, you're one of the 8. And his first thought was, well, what about Samwell Tarly? And I will say, Samwell Tarly and Jon are giving Frodo and Sam like vibes, just cutesy. So I'm loving them two, and I love their relationship. But yeah, so he just went to this dude and he's like, look, I know you're sending me, but can you bring Sam as well? And they're like, no, because he's not ready for war. And he's like, yeah, but you can't just look at him as just a soldier. He's got so much more to give. And he's basically just spent the entire chapter just fighting Samwell's corner and just being like, he can give so much more. I can't leave him here, because if I leave him here, he's dead. And I think out of all of the Stark's children, even though obviously Jon Snow is seen as the bastard child and the outcast and stuff, he seems to be the one that is most like his dad. He is just very noble, and he's just a man of principles, and I just bloody love him. Usually I find in most books that it's usually the nice guy that I like. I just like nice guys in books. I do. And in this series, that's going to be a struggle, because there aren't really any nice men or women. There are just humans that make human decisions in a world that's full of corruption and war and violence. So I think at the minute, any character that makes like the nicest of decisions seem to be the ones that I'm just grabbing onto, and I'm being like, just be nice for me. Everyone else is feral. Like, just be nice. And them two are the ones that are just making the nicest choices so far. So really, really love them. And I'm excited to see if them two can build a relationship. As somebody that I've definitely got daddy issues. You know, my dad left when I was a baby, and something in my life that I've always wished for is a relationship with a father figure. So I think Jon's story really, really resonates with me, because that's something I've always craved so much. And I'm just craving that for him at the minute as well. I'm just like, I want you to have a good relationship with your dad. I need it to happen for your healing and my own healing as well. Let's have a good dad together, please. Tyrion's family are vile. Like, I knew they were vile, but they're like vile. I've just finished a chapter where Tyrion and the dude that saved his life, I can't remember what his name is. I think it begins with a B. But anyway, that dude are having like a heart-to-heart, and Tyrion's talking to him about the fact that he'd been in love before, he'd got married, and the other dude that he's with was like, what? You love? And he's like, yeah, I'm just human. So he starts telling this really cute story about how he met this girl, and how they fell in love, and how they got married, and how he lost virginity to her, and I'm just like, this is really cute. And then Tyrion goes home to the place where he lives. I can't remember what it's called, but the place where he lives, and then his dad finds out this story, and his dad's like, you got married to a poor girl? No son of mine gets married to a poor girl. Bring her here, and bring my other son while you're at it. So then the other son, I think it was Jaime, tells this big story to his dad about how it was all a set-up and how he just thought his brother needed to lose his virginity, because obviously none of them believe that Tyrion could just find love naturally, because no one's attracted to short people, which is what they truly believe. And Jaime had paid this girl to sleep with his brother. Tyrion truly had feelings for this girl, and the dad was like, well, I'm not having any of this. This is not happening. So the dad then paid all these men to sleep with this woman in front of Tyrion and just break his poor little heart. I'm crying in corner with him, and then forced him to finish. Like, he was the last one to join in this event, if you want to call it that. There's money flying about everywhere. This sex worker's like got loads of silver and gold, and Tyrion's heart's broke. Crazy, truly crazy family, batshit. I think this passage that I just read had just taught me that this is like real grimdark. We're talking like Abercrombie grimdark. But I will say that this world so far feels a bit more of a happier and more hopeful place than the First Law world, which I'm here for. Thankfully, I'm in a mental headspace where I can read this. I don't think it's going to be a detriment to my mental health, and I don't think it's necessarily hopeless. I do feel like there's hope for certain characters. I think one of the things that are very prevalent in this story so far is just the abundant use of sex workers with these men. And I went on Google because sometimes I like to just see if authors maybe are just obsessed with sex or if it's appropriate. And it does seem appropriate because back in them days, again, men were pervs, and if they weren't getting it at home, they were just going to use the money and go out and get it elsewhere. So it seems like all these men are just horny young boys who want to go out there and get their underway all the time. So I'm fine with that, as well as this sexual transaction that appears to be going on everywhere. Tyrion himself seems to just use gold and money in general as a way to try and get his own way to everything. He's got away with words, but if words fail, he's like, well, I'll just fall back on fortune because I'm from a really wealthy family, and if I can't use words to get myself out of these situations, I'm just going to buy my way out. So yeah, that's almost like his last case scenario. He'll try his best to worm his way out with words, and then if not, he's like, fine, dad'll pay for it. Even though I hate my dad, because my dad's a waste man, I might as well just use his money because it's there in it. So he's like, I've got morals, but if it's my life online, bugger him. Yeah, daddy. I've not got loads to update you on today because I am a dad before I'm a book reader, and between like playing Frustration with Ruben, he smashes me at that game now, by the way. Catching up with Amayame, she's at big school now, year 7, so obviously we'll like to check in and talk about how she's going on with that. I've just not had much time to read, but the little bit of reading that I've done, not much has happened. The Stark sisters, they're arguing with each other, like they're at loggerheads as always, and I think Ned's fed up with him. He's just decided between them rowing and him feeling like
someone's out for his family, he's sending them back to Winterfell. I think that's what it's called, where Ned's from anyway. Sansa's fuming. I don't think Arya's that bothered really, but Sansa wants to be part of like the royal court and stuff, so she obviously loves being around all the grandeur. But I do think I got Sansa wrong. I said before that I thought she were like a bit of a la-di-da, pompous, stick up her arse. And I think I got her wrong. She's just a young lass that is way beyond her years. She's a woman at heart. She's a lady. She knows what she wants and she's just going to say it. I think the best way I can describe it in my mind is she's the kind of person that if you asked her what she wants for a takeaway, she'd just tell you. She's not one of them people that'd be like, I'll have whatever you want, which is basically me and my wife spend half an hour going, no, just pick. No, I'll have whatever you want, babe. But then I realised, actually, I don't pick either because I just put it on all on her. I feel like Sansa would pick. And I like her for that. She's just opinionated, she's strong, she knows what she wants, and she's just gonna get it. So, Sansa, I'm sorry, I feel like I got you wrong. But I have now got an hour to sit and read, because my MA on a Friday goes to musical theatre. I drop her off at R5, and rather than going home and picking her back up an hour later, I get to sit and read. So that's what I'm about to do. I'm going to sit down and hopefully knock out a couple of chapters, and then I'll check back in with you when there's anything reasonable to talk about. Oh, I feel ill. I've got to read this to you. So, Ned's just busted Cersei. He's basically called her and like, look, we need to meet. I know your secret. So they're in this courtyard, and then he's like, I know about you and your brother. So she's like, yeah, and? He's fit. She don't actually say he's fit, but she's like, we're meant to be. And then, hear this. I know you've probably read it already, but I want you to remember this and realise how sick and twisted these dirty bastards are. So Ned says, your brother or your lover? And then she says, both. She didn't even flinch from the truth. Since we were children together, and why not? The Targaryens wed brother and sister for 300 years to keep the bloodlines pure, and Jaime and I are more than brother and sister. We are one person in two bodies. We shared a womb together. He came into the world holding my foot. Our old maester said, when he is in me, I feel whole. Dirty tramps! They're just so dirty and deceitful and incestuous. Mingers. Dirty mingers, both of them. Holy sugar honey iced tea. If I'd just waited another minute before doing that last update, I'd have found out that Cersei Lannister, if that's even what her surname is just a scheming witch. So these kids, what's his name? In what crap name? Something Lannister. Joffrey, or Jeff Lannister, whatever his name is. He's not even King's son. Them two incestuous tramps have made 3 babies, so none of them are the rightful heirs to the throne, if I'm getting this right. So the King's Hand, the old King's Hand, had found this out, so the Lannisters killed him, because if the King had found out, obviously she'd be sent to Jesus, and now that Ned knows, like, is Ned gonna tell the King? He's got to tell the King, because if the King knows and they end up assassinating King like it seems like they're planning to, then surely Joffrey won't get the throne anyway, because he's not even the bloodline of the King. This is mental. What a twist! I'm here for it.
Oh shit! Viserys has just been killed, like proper killed, by Khal Drogo. Is that what we're doing? We're just pouring like molten metal on people's faces. That is mental. I mean, I'm right happy he's dead. I'll be honest. Call me a psycho, but she gave him bare chances. And I did say that I wanted Khal Drogo to cut his balls off and feed them to him. So not quite the ending that I expected. But that was probably more brutal, in all fairness. Crazy. Very good. Glad he's dead. Don't rest in peace.
Good morning. Today's Saturday. So I'm now, I don't know, like 5 or 6 days into this reading, and I'm loving it. I'm currently recording in my kid's bedroom, because obviously on a Saturday morning I can't have my own bedroom. So yeah, here we are.
My Kindle says I'm like 66% in, and a lot happened last night / this morning before I came to check in. I'm trying my best to check in like every few chapters, but a lot's happened over this last kind of 4 or 5 chapters, and I just couldn't put it down. So I was just like, right, I'm going to try and remember what's happened, and then I'll come and tell you. My brain's fried. It is so mentally fatiguing, constantly trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And you feel like you trust the right person and they betray you. You feel like you kind of know where it's going and it doesn't. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. So Robert Baratheon, the king, stupid idiot, got killed by a pig. Like, of all the things that I thought were going to be his ending, I just didn't think it'd be a pig. So, stupid idiot. And then after that, it seemed between him and Ned that they had this relatively simple plan. He was going to put Ned in charge of the throne until Joffrey was of age. Ned was like, all right, cool, we'll figure that out at a later date. I'll take care of the throne and I'll try and figure out a way to make sure Joffrey doesn't take it because he's not the natural heir. Now, Ned, being the nobleman that he is, didn't want to upset Robert on his deathbed, so he obviously kept the secret from him about the fact that none of the kids were his. So I was just like, Ned, put your like loyalty and nice guyness to the side for a change and just tell the truth. Stop trying to save everyone's feelings. So that was really frustrating because I feel like that could have stopped a lot of what then proceeded, which was just chaos, sheer chaos. Ned was literally just about to take the throne, temporarily, obviously. He had this planned. And I will say, before I talk about what happened next, frustratingly, throughout this entire update, I've not once mentioned that I suspected Littlefinger were a bit of a snake. And Macaulay, who is a guy that I do most of my buddy reads with, I actually messaged him on multiple occasions and said, I don't trust Littlefinger. He's snaky. I don't understand why he'd be so loyal to Ned. And then Macaulay was messaging me back. He's like, well, his loyalties actually lie with Caitlyn. And I was just like, yeah, but why be nice to Ned? Something not right there. And my suspicions were proven true when Littlefinger was allegedly going to be kind of collecting a troop of sorts for Ned to overthrow the Lannisters and make sure that they couldn't put Joffrey on the throne, because that wasn't Robert's dying wish. And Littlefinger betrayed him. So it all kicked off. Obviously, a fight happened. Loads of people got killed. That were mad. Like, that scene was crazy. Really enjoyed that in a weird way. Like, I enjoyed the fighting scene, but I didn't enjoy the outcome. And then, yeah, I mean, this is just how I feel. The way that the last few scenes have made me feel, with Cersei being the manipulative, clever woman that she is, this is how it's made me feel. And I just don't know. I almost want to give up guessing what's going to happen next, because to me it just seems so obvious. Maybe it's because it was so obvious that there lies the twist, that Ned was going to sit on the throne for a while and bring some sort of peace to the kingdom. But now the Lannisters are on the throne. They've captured at least one of the Starks. They've got Sansa, and she's infuriating me. I said before that I understand why she is the way she is, and I do. She's grown up in a noble home where she's almost been indoctrinated to this kind of royal lifestyle, where that is tunnel vision. It's the only thing she can see. I need to marry Joffrey. I need to be queen, and nothing else matters. So she's currently being manipulated by Cersei, which is frustrating, but it's understandable. Again, she's a kid surrounded by adults, and they're using her need and desire to marry Joffrey and be queen to get what they want. So yeah, I'm not happy at the minute. Nothing's really going my way. I'm not losing a lot of characters. The characters that I want to succeed aren't succeeding, and the characters that I despise in the Lannisters are just getting everything that they want. So yeah, bit flat this morning, but we'll keep reading. 66% in. See where it goes. Hopefully, Ned can figure out a way out of this, but I can't see how he's going to come out of the side of this.
It's kicking off. It's just like every single chapter it kicks off, and I feel like I've just got to come talk to you again. How far are we in now? 549. So we're nearing the end. And you could argue, I suppose some people might say the first 100, 200 pages of this book are a bit slower. They're never slow for me in book ones. I love book ones in book but ones in series, because it's like the mystery of it. It's like, who is everyone? Where am I? What on earth's going off? And I've seen some criticisms where people say there's loads of characters and stuff. Ignore them, just read it. It'll come together eventually. But it's now kicking off. Probably from about here in the book, we're getting to the point where like it's just one thing after another, one twist after another. And another twist. Jon Snow has just gone with all his mates to the other side of the wall, and they found some dead bodies, and the dead bodies were like weird. Everything about these dead bodies screamed just leave them alone, go back home. But they weren't listening. The wolves were literally screaming at these dead bodies. They were like barking at them and growling and stuff, and they were like, I don't want any of that. The horse that they tried to put these dead bodies on were like, no, I'm having none of that. So they had to make these makeshift things. Everything screamed, leave the dead bodies alone. Don't take them home. Did they listen? No. Of course they took them home. When they took them home, stuff started going weird. Jon Snow woke up in the middle of the night and he came to his door, and this dude, his head's facing the wrong way. He's on floor, no longer living. And turns out that these things that they brought back from the other side of the wall turned into like these zombie things. I don't know if these are the White Walkers that we learnt about in chapter 1, but they have a similar description. They've got like really bright eyes, and I think they're like zombies. It's giving Walking Dead vibes. And I did predict, so you can't tell me I didn't, I did predict earlier on that there's going to be some strong stuff at the other side of this wall. And I'm guessing that these things that are coming back are like zombie warrior things. I've got so many questions. Like, what are they? Are they like zombie-like things? How do they happen? Like, if you die at the other side of the wall in this like forest, do you just come back as one of these things, or do you have to be killed by one of these things? I just know that they're strong, and I think they're scared of fire. So burn them all. But yeah, that chapter was really, really good and got me hyped for it. It's Saturday today, so kids are off. I think Ruben's somewhere behind me, crawling about there. Every single waking moment I've got where I can sit down and read, I'm reading at the minute, because it's just at that point in the book now where I just need to know more and more and more about what's happening. But I'm a dad first, so we're now going to go and do parent and family stuff, and at some point today, hopefully I can maybe knock out like another 50 or so pages. I just don't want it to end. Marvellous. I called it. I'm in kids' bedroom again, because this is the only place I can find peace to come and talk to you. So Bran is currently talking to some girl called Osha, I think her name is, and they're talking about the whites at the other side of the wall, which was good for me because I was really confused, as you've seen from my previous clip, about what these White Walkers are. And Osha's just given like a little bit of a history about what they are and the fact that there's giants at the other side of the wall. And I believe her, because I guessed earlier on in this video that there's otherworldly beasts at the other side of this wall. And I did say earlier on in this video as well that I feel like they're not taking the threat seriously. And I've just read a passage that where Osha is saying that she tried to warn Robb before he went off on this mad trip, and she's trying to tell him about the threat at the other side of this wall, and like no one's taking her seriously. So then Bran said, tell me, I'll tell Robb and he'll listen to me. So then she said, will he now? We'll see. You tell him this, my lord. You tell him he's bound on marching the wrong way. It's north he should be taking his swords. North, not south. You hear me? I was looking over there because I highlighted it because I called it. I told you like earlier on that all these idiots are fighting amongst themselves for the crown, and they don't realise that there's a threat at the other side of the wall. Like the foreshadowing, for me, I'm a foreshadow hunter. So throughout an entire book, I question everything. I question things that don't need questioning, but I question it all. And there's been a lot of mentions throughout this series about like beasts and whites and giants, and everyone that talks about them, they're like, yeah, but this is stuff that happened thousands of years ago. And they keep mentioning that. They're like, this is thousands of years ago. This is thousands of years ago. Just like the way that they talk about the dragons. They say that dragons are like in the past, but then, what's the name again?
the blonde girl, the Targaryen. You know what I'm on about anyway. The blonde girl that's with Khal Drogo. I really like her. I feel bad for forgetting what her name is. Khaleesi? Who's Khaleesi? No, Khaleesi is the name of a woman that's married to a Khal, I think. Oh my God, I feel so bad forgetting her name. Sorry, bae. Daenerys. That's her. She's got these eggs, and they keep talking about the fact that dragons aren't real anymore, but she's got these eggs, and these eggs are starting to do some stuff. So I feel like these eggs at some point are going to hatch as well, and there's going to be dragons in here, because there's a picture of a dragon on front cover, and I can't imagine that there'd be a picture of a dragon on front cover if dragons weren't going to be like a thing. So that's not as much of a... I don't feel like Inspector Gadget for guessing that one, but I do feel a bit like Inspector Gadget for guessing that there were other stuff outside at wall. You might have guessed it, but I feel like I'm the only one that guessed it. So if you did guess it, I don't care. Happy Sunday. Today's a new day. I got a bit of reading done last night. I got a bit of reading done today after my bike ride because the kids and wife are at church. So I just thought I'd update you. I'm gagging for it. When I say not a lot's happened, that's a lie. Because what I love about this book is every chapter something happens, whether it be that you find out something new about a character or the past, or you're introduced to a new part of the world that fills in a gap that was there earlier on in the book. But over the last few chapters, it's been dealing a lot with this looming war that's obviously going to happen. It's about to kick off between the Starks and the Lannisters. The Starks are trying to free Ned, obviously, and they think they're trying to free Sansa, but she don't want to go nowhere. She's literally like, I'm staying. I'm going to be Joffrey's wife. We're going to be king and queen together. This is going to be so fun. So yeah, I think they're going to be a shock there. But they've got this war coming up, and it's very strategic, and I love this. I love that Robb and Catelyn are between them trying to figure out who they can trust and what armies they can get together so they can go out and have this final battle to try and overthrow the Lannisters. But it's also scary because I've learned so far in this book that you can't really trust anyone. So I'm thinking all the time, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but Robb, can you trust him? Are they going to betray you and turn on you and work with the Lannisters at the last minute? The only logical thing that I can see in my mind, the only way that Robb can win this battle, because I don't think he can win it militarily, because the Lannisters seem to have more power. They seem to have like the stronger army, the better equipment, and just the sheer numbers. And Robb Stark has given up his his military gain when it comes to positioning, because they were set in this, not camp, but like a village that his mum said was like impenetrable. Is that even a word? Impenetrable? It is now. And they've just left that, so they're now going to attack because they think they've got one over on the Lannisters. But then I'm thinking, do the Lannisters already know that you're going to do this because you're only 15? So militarily, you're not going to be the most mature person. You're likely to make mistakes. But hear me out. So I've sat down for like 20, 30 minutes and thought, how can he win this battle? And the only way that I can think that he can win this is if he works with Daenerys and the Dothraki, because I don't think they've got any beef with Robb. So I'm wondering if he can maybe send crows to them and say, look, we will work with you to get you the throne because my dad don't want it. And the other person that they keep mentioning, the old king's brother, who's the heir to the throne, he's meant to be a bit mental. So I don't think Robb's that arsed about him having it, or Ned's not arsed about him having it. So if he's got no beef with Daenerys and the Dothraki, then maybe they could bring them in. I mean, in an ideal world, I want Ned to want the throne because he seems like quite a noble man. I think he'd try and bring peace to the world. But if not, then yeah, get Daenerys, because she seems like she's going to be getting dragons soon, because her eggs keep getting mentioned, and they keep talking about the fact that dragons aren't real anymore. Dragons are 10,000 years old. But I'm just like, look, this is foreshadowing. Dragons are real because I've seen it on front cover. I know dragons are coming, and I want Daenerys to get on throne, or Ned get on throne, but work together and burn all these Lannisters. But yeah, that's how I feel so far. Loving it. Very good. I also love and hate the fact that Robb's been put in this position. 15-year-old, bless him. But I am learning through this world that kids grow up quick. And I think his age and the fact that he's leading this army is either going to win them or lose them this battle. It could win them the battle because I feel like now the Lannisters know that he's in charge, they're potentially going to underappreciate what he can do. And from reading
a fair bit of his chapters now, it does seem that a lot of what his dad's taught him when he was a kid, he's definitely took on, because there are a lot of chapters between him and his mum where mum's got the answers, but internally she talks and she's like, I don't want to give him the answers, I want to see if he's got them. And a lot of the time he's got the answers. He does seem to be his dad's son. So I just hope that he does his dad proud and he goes into this battle and he just proves all these Lannister waste men wrong. Lannisters just need to go. This world would just be such a better place without the Lannisters in it. Keep Tyrion, though. Tyrion's a laugh. 8 Lannisters.
Another day. Today is Monday, so I should be able to get a fair bit of reading done today because the kids are back at school and I don't start my new job until next Monday, so I've got a week off to focus on reading. I didn't check in with you much yesterday because I read a fair bit at the mother-in-laws and father-in-laws and then in the evening, but I just wanted to enjoy it. I was enjoying not picking up the camera and just being immersed in the story. So it was mainly the build-up to this war that was looming, and I didn't get anything I wanted from the war. Frustratingly, the lady didn't turn up on the dragons and burn them all, and it appears I've not got my happy ending. I am a sucker for an happy ending, and I don't think I've got it or I'm going to get it in this story, so shame, but we go on. There are other positives to take from the story. Like the character work, that's brilliant. Really enjoying Tyrion Lannister's chapters when they come. And what I do like about this story is that you do get to spend a lot of time with the perceived good guys and bad guys, and I don't think there are good guys and bad guys in this story. There are just humans who make good and bad choices. But a lot of fantasy stories that you tend to read will have what is perceived to be the good guy, and then you're just questioning why the bad guys are doing it. So I do like that you get both sides of the story in this. Other than Tyrion Lannister, the rest of them are absolute scumbags. Still hate them all. I don't see any good in them, and I did want the dragons to burn them, but hey-ho, let's go. The war, the actual battle itself was class in a different way to what I'm used to. My favourite battle writer in fantasy so far has been John Gwynne. His scenes are very exaggerated, cinematic. They just kind of get you out of your seat and they just make you excited for more. And the battle scene that just happened between the Lannisters and the Starks, and obviously all crew and stuff that they built up together, were the opposite of that, really. And I loved it. It was realistic. It was brutal, violent. Realistic, I think, is just the best word I can use to describe it. In amongst that battle, I did love the scene with Tyrion when the night was over Tyrion and the guy that's almost the bodyguard to Tyrion, I forgot what his name is, I think it begins with a B. He was nowhere to be seen, so Tyrion had to fight for himself, and the knight was like, yield or die, and he found that inner strength to just be like, I'm not dying. And I think he had butted a horse or something like that. Pretty funny, actually. I don't think it was supposed to be, but I just found it very Tyrion-like. He's just like, no, poof, headbutt the horse. And then it ended, and the Lannisters appear to be celebrating. I think Robb Stark's MIA, so I'm hoping he's survived and maybe he's got some sort of cunning plan to come from behind or something. But so far, the Lannisters appear to have won, so I just can't imagine what's going to happen next other than Lannisters just keeping the throne and the world just being a miserable place. I've got about 20% left. I will definitely get through that last 20% over the next few days. And then at the end of the video, I'll do some sort of review, I suppose. Right enjoying it, though. Very good book. I also forgot to update you on one of my favourite chapters that I've read in the last day or two, and it was a Daenerys chapter where her and all the Dothraki are going through this village. It seems like it's after a war, so they're going through and there's loads of dead people laying about, and Daenerys is walking through, I think she's actually on a horse, so I'm on a horse at the minute, she's going through, and all of the Dothraki, it's normal to them after war to pillage and rape, and they're going round and the men are basically just using all the women. It's like a really harrowing scene, quite dark. But then Daenerys on her horse, she's going round and she's like going, oh, you tramps, get off, stop it, you dirty pervs. And she's like dragging them all off and saying, you won't do that anymore, you're not going to do that. If after war you decide that you want to have your wicked way with these women, you're going to take them as your own, you're going to have them as partners and wives, and you're going to have them to bear children. And they're almost like, what do you mean? Like, they just can't fathom the fact that she's saying, look, you can have women, but you're not just going to use them for sex after battle. You're going to let them be part of the community, and we're going to bring them in, and they're just like, this bitch is on crack. But no, she's not, because Khal Drogo had her back, and he were like, look, this is my wife. Unfortunately, lads, if she says we're going to have to take them home, just going to have to take them home, you have to find someone else. So I like that, really like that. One thing I always struggle with in books, not just in books, but in real life, I really struggle to understand people's intentions, and I'm quite easily misled by people. Like, I will judge people on their actions. So if people do good things, I just assume they are good people. And I feel like that could be what's happening at the minute with Daenerys. I don't feel like she's as good of a person as I am reading into. No doubt that she's probably going to do bad things and stuff. And maybe it's because she's surrounded by such brutality that she's just coming off as good. But so far, again, with Daenerys, I really like her. I think she's making positive changes in that community. We'll see. But that chapter was really, really dark. And I can't help but just be interested by the Dothraki culture and stuff like that, because, yes, they're brutal, but it's a brutal world. They're all pretty brutal, aren't they? There's no good people in this world. But I really find the Dothraki culture interesting, as like, even as far back as when they talk about the fact that Dothraki are better with bows than other cultures, and they're better on horses. I'm just like, why? Like, why are they better? But I'm guessing that's because they're scared of sea. So obviously they don't need bows and stuff, so they just practice on horseback and just archers them, just like archer everyone. But yeah, I find their culture really, really interesting. So yeah, sort of update you. 20% left. Carry on reading.
Yes. Oh, I'm knackered. I've just ran upstairs to give you this reaction. I'm on page 679. And Robb Stark did it. He did it. And he didn't even need that last bit dragons. And I know what you're thinking. Tyrone, why would you even think that Daenerys is going to come and help Robb? I didn't think it, but I didn't have any faith in him. I thought there's no way 15-year-old Robb Stark can win this battle against Jaime Lannister. There's no way. It's not possible. And as I'm reading through that chapter, I'm like, he can't do it. You know, Daddy Lannister, he seems to have won his battle. And then I thought, well, Jaime's going to win his battle and there's no hope. And as the chapter progressed, Robb's talking to his mum and I'm like, hang on. Are they setting up a trap here? Because there are a few mentions of traps. And I'm like, they're setting up a trap, aren't they? No, they can't do it. He's 15, he's not that clever. But he is, because he's his dad's son and he's listened to his dad all his life. And then they set up the trap. And then the battle commenced. And they won. And then they ragged Jaime Lannister's raggedy arse uphill and were like, here he is, mum. And I just felt so proud of him. 15-year-old Robb has put together an army and defeated the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister. I couldn't be happier. I know, obviously, I forgot what Dad's name is, but I know him. I know he's still alive, but for now, I'm just going to soak in this moment and just be happy that they've at least got a bargaining chip to try and get Ned and girls back. Buzzing, like rate buzzing. Just, this book. Don't you dare tell me that Daenerys loses this baby. There are two things in books and life that I can't deal with that really hurt my heart, and that's babies getting hurt or miscarriages and dogs dying. And Khal Drogo's fell off his horse. He's really poorly. He's gone into a tent, and then that mage lady's come in and said, I might be able to heal him, but I'm going to have to use magic, which is obviously really frowned upon. And she's like, just do anything. And she says, well, that's fine, but if that happens, another life has to go. And she's like, is it my life? She says, no, not your life. She says, that's fine. So then they get this horse, and they're killing this horse, and they're leaking it onto Khal Drogo in some sort of weird sacrifice thing. And then Daenerys has an internal monologue where she says, if I have to sacrifice a horse to save my husband, I'll do it 1,000 times. So then I'm like, all right, cool, this is fine. And then obviously the chapter progresses, And some of Khal Drogo's men are just like, no, we're not doing this because blood magic is really frowned upon. So they're trying to get in the tent to stop it. The guy that's looking after Daenerys is fighting them all off. There's a big fight. People are dying. And then she has like a really bad pain in her stomach. And then after the fight's happened, she says that it feels like her son's trying to cut from inside her. And then she's just been dragged into this tent. If she loses this baby, I am rioting. I am rioting. No dead babies in my books. None. I don't know what to say. I've been sat here for like 15 minutes or so trying to figure out how to present my feelings towards Ned Stark dying. And I ain't got a clue. I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm sad. I just did not expect it. Honestly, from the build-up to that scene, he was just at the bottom of my priority list for what happens next, because I just thought he was going to live. I thought he might have got sent at wall. I didn't even know that he'd swallow his pride and do as he was told, because that's such a big thing for him, to stand there in front of all them people and say, I was a traitor to the king, when he wasn't. He was such a proud man, and he'd never betray the king. So for him to stand there and say, yeah, it was me, I did it, and Joffrey is the rightful king, that would have killed him internally. Forget what they did to him, that would have killed him as a man, and the kind of man that he was. And the fact that Joffrey was willing to let him stand there in front of all them people and do that and still kill him just shows how much of a dirty scumbag he is. I don't know where the story goes next. This weren't part of my plan. In my mind, Ned were going to do what needed to be done, see his wife and kids again, and then they were potentially just going to have to try and figure out how to navigate the world and stay safe. I certainly didn't expect him to get killed. I don't know if the baton now gets passed to Robb and Robb tries to get some sort of vengeance for Ned. I just know that, like, when it comes to favourite characters, Ned were up there for me. It was a character whose chapters I always look forward to, and a character who will be sorely missed. I'm just gutted, really, really gutted, especially after the back of that Daenerys chapter with her potentially having issues with Labour. Then to literally dive straight from that chapter to this chapter and have Ned taken away from the story this early on as well just shows me that George R.R. Martin just pulls no punches, and it teaches me a lesson, I suppose, going into further books, that there's no point in necessarily getting attached to these characters because they're likely going to die anyway, which just sucks. I'm always an optimist, and I think throughout this story there have been little snippets where I've thought there's hope, and this last kind of 10% of the book has showed me that I'm just being naive in a really brutal world. So I'm going to try and separate my emotions from these characters going forward, because if it's going to do me dirty like that, then no doubt I'm going to suffer a lot more losses going forward, which I wouldn't say I'm here for it. I don't like losing characters. I do like happy endings. But I do appreciate that it's realistic, and that even though Joffrey's a waste man, I understand why he's done it. I understand he's done it to try and gain that authority. He's worried that the world is going to look at him as a little kid, and he's worried that people are going to look at him and think, well, it's actually his mum ruling the kingdom, not him. And that was his way of saying, nah, this is my kingdom, and I'm going to run it. I just hate him for it, and I hope someone chops his head off. I know Lannisters. Not Tyrion, I like Tyrion. What a chapter. Heartbreaking. There's just no hope. There's literally no hope at all. Last two chapters, I read and I thought, give me a pick-me-up. Sansa's chapter. She's basically in prison now by Joffrey, who said, you're going to be my wife whether you like it or not. You're going to give me a baby. And if that baby's stupid, I'm going to kill you. And then I'll find another wife. So she's just like, well, I'm just going to have to be nice to him and hope he don't kill me. And then young lads, Bran and his brother, have had a dream that the dad's dead, and that messages come so they know the dad's dead. So they've got no hope. And then Daenerys. I told you that if baby dies, I'm rioting. Ah! That's my riot. I just don't know what to do. It is literally just one unhappy ending after another. One thing I will say is I had a feeling that Magi woman, that wizard witch woman, was shady when they were trying to take off that medicine. Khal Drogo had that medicine on his belly and they tried peeling it off, and I thought, I wonder if that medicine's poisoning him. I didn't actually think maybe she's poisoning him, but I just thought, I'm not sure I trust her. But I don't trust anyone, actually. This world is full of people I don't trust. But I didn't expect her to just be on one revenge mish. That was mad. So she's literally intentionally tricked Daenerys into letting her treat her and Khal Drogo with the sole purpose of killing him, killing her, or at least the baby. And now we're here and Daenerys has got nothing. So the woman's kind of like, now you know how I feel. This is the opposite of a Sanderlanche. If you've read Brandon Sanderson's book before, usually at the end of his books, there's something to get you out of your seat and get you screaming and shouting about. But this is grimdark at its finest. Luckily, I'm mentally in a good place, so it's not the wrong time for me to read this book. It's definitely the right time for me to read this book, and I appreciate it for what it is. It is marvellous in what it's trying to do, but it's certainly not an happy place. It is miserable. I need something to give me a pick me up, because at the minute everything is going against me. I'm getting nothing I want. Daenerys, them dragons need to crack, because there was mention in this chapter of the dragons getting warm, and she asked her mate to feel them, and he was like, nah, I can't feel them getting warm, but she thinks they're getting warm. So I'm just hoping these dragons crack and give me something to get excited about, because she's got to go on a revenge mission now. There's just revenge missions everywhere. Rob's got to get revenge for his dad. Daenerys is now going to get revenge and kill these 20,000 Dothraki who've just deserted her. And then rape that woman as well. Rotten. Honestly, just a rotten world with rotten people doing rotten things, making me feel rotten. Stupid. She's got dragons. I knew it. I knew she was going to get them. Oh, yes! There had to be some sort of crescendo in this book, because it's been bloody miserable. Honestly, there is so much misery in this last 10% of this book. I just thought, there's got to be some happy. There's got to be. And then she gets not only one dragon, not 2 dragons, but 3 dragons. And she can't get burnt. That's cool. Oh, honestly, I'm just so happy. Oh, elated. Butterflies in my tummy. Just everything. All feelings. What an ending. If that had not happened in that last chapter, I'd have genuinely left this book feeling so deflated. But I'm so buzzing. I am so buzzing. Don't even care that people are dead now. She's got dragons. I've got other thoughts, because obviously since we last spoke, I've read like 3 or 4 chapters. Jon's chapter, he tried to escape the wall, and his chapters break my heart, if I'm honest. I really like Jon, but I just wish he'd realised that family's not always blood. And I can relate to that. You know, I have daddy issues. My dad left when I was a kid, and I really wish that I had a good dad. Something I've always craved for, still crave for at 35. I think I found that in my father-in-law. He's a wicked bloke, but you always long for your family wanting you. And I just wish that he could understand that in the wall, he's found a family that want him. And I just don't think he's used to that yet. But hopefully over time, he'll start to realise, actually, these are my brothers in arms, my sisters in arms. And he has found a place where he belongs, and he doesn't try and keep running away. And then the whole kind of Caitlyn storyline and the Rob storyline. Do you know what? Sorry, I got so excited at the fact that Daenerys has got dragons that I completely forgot that Rob has been deemed as king of the North by obviously all the people that he's surrounded by, and not like legally or anything. But that were a twist as well, because he weren't even gunning for that. He were kind of like, look, we're going to have to
named Stannis the king because the other brother's not even really next in line. And then they were like, no one's king other than you, mate. And he's like, what? Me king? Yeah, you king, mate. So yeah, he'd do his dad proud. Rest in peace, Ned. Bless you. But just a great book. I'm going to have to do some sort of review, aren't I? I don't really know with all these emotions going through me because I literally finished it minutes ago and ran upstairs out of breath to try and tell you what I thought. Let's do plot first. So the plot, fabulous, genuinely fantastic. I think this would be a book that some people could struggle with. It's not necessarily action all the time and fast moving and stuff, and there are certainly chapters that take a lot of time introducing you to characters, introducing you to the world and stuff, but I love that, especially in book ones. I love the introduction to a world, introduction to characters and stuff like that. So for me, the plot was definitely progressive. I feel like George R.R. Martin's definitely not slow when it comes to plot. Everything's intentional and it is always moving, just not 100 miles an hour. But I'm fine with that. You know, it's a series. It shouldn't always be rapid. So I've got no faults at all with the plot. I thought there were loads of twists, things I didn't see coming, things that I wanted to happen didn't happen, things that I didn't want to happen did happen, vice versa. There's some happy moments, some sad moments. It just gave me everything. So can't knock the plot at all. Characters, for me, that's where the series stands out. Every single character is unique. I love some, I hate some. I hate to love some and I love to hate some. Marvellous character work. Every single voice felt unique. Every action felt genuine. I felt everything that happened was definitely reflective on what the author had built up to. The world building was spectacular, and I think sometimes when we think world building, we just think how big is the world? But for me, world building is so much more than just how big is the world. The world's massive, obviously. There's loads of history. It's just there is so much to learn in this world, so much that I don't know about yet. But for me, that's not the standout when it comes to the world building. For me, it's the fact that there is so much. You know, you've got religion, you've got different cultures, you've got food, you've got armour, you've got fashion. It is just humongous. And George R.R. Martin just weren't lazy with anything. Just loved it. I don't think there was anything really that I'd critique about this book. For me, it was marvellous. Thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. Is enjoyed the word? I don't think I could say I enjoyed it from start to finish, because of course I didn't. But I enjoyed the journey, and I wouldn't have wanted it to end in any other place. Maybe Ned could still be here. I do miss Ned. Ned were a good bloke. Bloody marvellous. What a journey. Can't wait to do it all again in Clash of Kings. If you've enjoyed this, let me know, because I'm more than happy to record this sort of thing for Clash of Kings as well. It's good for me to look back on, because I can look back and remember what I thought at certain times. And it's probably going to be a nice reminder for me when I'm reading Clash of Kings, if I want to come here and remind myself what happened. There's probably going to be like a week or 2 weeks gap between now and when I start Clash of Kings. Firstly, because I need to find a happy place in a book for next week or two, just to kind of pick me up again. Although Dragons did it, but there were also some down moments. But I want to watch the TV series and just see how closely they tie, and maybe do a video at some point with how close they are, for if people maybe don't want to read the books and want to watch the series, or if people have watched the series and want to know if they should read the books. I always think you should. I always think the books add another layer on top of what the series can on TV. So I will be watching the TV series, and then after I've watched the TV series, I'm going to dive into Clash of Kings. But bloody hell, what a book, honestly. If you've not read it already, why have you watched this video? But read it. If you've watched to this point, as always, I love you the most. I'll see you next one.